Television was an integral part of the success Gulas enjoyed throughout the region. From the 1950s forward, the area had various forms of local televised wrestling. Many fans are well aware of the long-running TV show out of Memphis hosted for many years by arguably the greatest wrestling announcer ever, Lance Russell. Russell's ability to sell angles to fans, to lead young stars through interviews, and to communicate his disgust at the heinous acts of the bad guys, among his other talents, made him one of the area's most valuable performers over the years. He will be long remembered for his verbal jousting with Jerry Lawler. Russell eventually was paired with popular Memphis TV weatherman Dave Brown to form a long-running announcing duo. Russell, who worked in the Memphis TV industry for several years, eventually left that line of work and worked full-time as an announcer and behind the scenes in the wrestling promotion. Much of the eastern half of the territory was treated to the announcing of Harry Thornton. Thornton was a pioneer broadcaster in Chattanooga. He became involved with Gulas in the late 1950s and became a co-promoter in the Chattanooga area with Gulas. With Thornton's popularity from Chattanooga radio, he added credibility and had a local feel to Gulas' efforts to succeed in the local area. However, Thornton understood his role in the business was to make the TV show exciting and to make the TV viewers care enough about what they saw to be willing to spend their money to see the live house shows that week. Thornton did not like wrestling heels and made no bones about it in his commentary and often in interviews with them. He often verbally sparred with the likes of Tojo Yamamoto and gentleman Saul Weingroff. Thornton also worked the TV show taped in Nashville over the years, adding his colorful personality to the show. Gulas also, at various times, had local TV shows produced in Birmingham and Huntsville, as well as in Jacksonville and Nashville, Tennessee. Gulas' Birmingham announcer was Sterling Brewer. After the Atlanta office underwent some turmoil in late 1972, Brewer was hired as an interim announcer for the NWA Georgia office. He worked there a few weeks before a permanent replacement was chosen. Brewer was replaced by Gordon Soley, who became the voice of Georgia Championship Wrestling for the next decade. From time to time, a group would form and try and promote wrestling somewhere in the territory against the established Gulas. In the fall of 1972, Phil Golden opened up a promotion based out of Kentucky and ran several cities in opposition to Gulas, using stars such as Mike Pappas, Joe Ball and Bill Helm, Mario Gelanto, Paul Christie, Angelo Poffo, Pez Watley, Chico Cortez, and others. The promotion was based around longtime Gulas villains Kurt and Carl Von Bronner and their manager, gentleman Saul Weingroff, who left the Gulas promotion at the end of the summer of 1972. The promotion folded in the spring of 1973. It should be noted that Golden was the brother of Bill Golden, who opened up the Montgomery, Alabama territory in 1971. Bill Golden, the father of Jimmy Golden, had married into the famous Welsh family that had strong ties to the Gulas promotion. Also notable among those who tried to run opposition was Lee Fields. In 1974, Fields tried to promote opposite Gulas in Nashville. Lee had run the Gulf Coast promotion since 1958. Among the stars Fields used in his effort against Gulas was Jack Dalton, known to most Gulas fans as Don Fargo. What is interesting about this endeavor is that Fields had worked previously for Gulas, along with his brothers Don and Bobby. Bobby, as Luke Fields, had teamed with Don to become one of Gulas' most successful teams of the late 1950s and early 1960s. In reality, Lee, Don, and Bobby Fields were Lee, Don, and Bobby Hatfield, sons of Gulf Coast wrestling referee legend Virgil Speedy Hatfield. Most interesting of all, perhaps, in regards to this attempt to run opposite Gulas, is that Speedy Hatfield was married to Bonnie Welsh, the sister of Gulas' promoting partner Roy Welsh. There were other attempts to run opposition against Gulas, but Nick would survive them through the years. The future, though, would hold more opposition for Gulas from time to time. The Gulas territory, as most every territory, had a fairly wide array of recognized titles. Gulas was a member of the National Wrestling Alliance and over the years was able to secure dates with various NWA World Heavyweight and World Junior Heavyweight champions. Gulas had a number of titles regularly defended throughout the circuit. Among these were the World Tag Team titles, the Southern Junior Heavyweight title, the Southern Tag Team titles, the Mid-America Heavyweight title, the Mid-America Tag titles, and the U.S. Junior Heavyweight title. Before even discussing the various titles, Gulas recognized it is important to note that the territory became known over the years as a haven for great tag teams. For years, many Gulas cards were headlined with a tag team match, often for one of the area's top tag team titles. Over the years, Gulas also used many mass tag teams including Mephisto and Dante, the Mighty Yankees, the Blue Infernos, the Spoilers, the Interns, the Medics, and others. Some say because mass teams grew great crowd response in the area, Gulas could book a mass team in 2 cities on the same night and have 4 different men wrestle under the masks. This would make it possible, for example, to have the Yankees appear in Memphis on Monday night, while a few hundred miles away in Birmingham, the Yankees were also headlining a card there. It goes without saying that Nick Gulas was a very shrewd promoter. It is ironic that Gulas rarely dropped the ball, but in the late 1960s and early 1970s, by failing to fully utilize one of the greatest mass tag teams ever, the Infernos, with manager J.C. Dykes. Dykes had refereed for Gulas for a number of years before becoming a manager, but had to leave the area to hit it big. The World Tag Team titles were held by such teams as Corsica Joe and Corsica Gene, Jackie and Don Fargo, Don and Al Green, Tex Riley and Len Rossi, Kurt and Carl Von Bronner, Lester and Herb Welsh, Eddie Graham and Sam Steamboat, Tojo Yamamoto and Alex Perez, the Blue Infernos, Billy and Jimmy Hines, Ken Lucas and Dennis Hall, Len Rossi and Bearcat Brown, Jackie Fargo and Jerry Jarrett, and the Fabulous Kangaroos. Research indicates Gulas stopped using the World Tag Team titles around 1974, although through the 1970s, a few teams have passed through the area from time to time claiming to be the World Tag Team champions. The Southern Tag titles date back to the late 1940s. Champions over the years include Herb Welsh and Tex Riley, Roy Welsh and Eddie Gossett, Herb Welsh and Roy Welsh, Don and Luke Fields, Don Carson and the Red Shadow, Butnick Monroe and Norval Austin, and Terry and Ronnie Garvin. This title will continue to be defended consistently in the area through 1987. The Mid-America tag titles began to be defended in early 1972 by Len Rossi and Tony Charles. Other champions included Kurt and Carl Von Bronner, Don and Al Green, Len Rossi and Bearcat Brown, and the Interns, among others. This title was defended in the area through 1980. The Mid-America title was originally defended in the territory by the legendary Nature Boy Buddy Rogers in 1957. The title was defended until it fell inactive until around 1971 when Len Rossi was billed as champion. The title would become more prominent in the region in the mid and late 1970s and will continue to be defended until 1987. The United States Junior Heavyweight title was defended in Gulas territory over the years, most notably in the early 1970s. It is listed here primarily because the list of men who held the title is short but prestigious and includes Johnny Walker, Don Green, Lorenzo Parente, and the legendary Danny Hodge in the mid-1960s. The singles title that came to become the area's major title was the Southern Junior Heavyweight title. A list of champions included Herb Welsh, Ray Stevens, Freddie Blassie, Jackie Fargo, Jesse James, Len Rossi, Don Green, Sputnik Monroe, Tommy Gilbert, Ronnie Garvin, and Lou Thez, among others. Due to the area usually headlining shows with tag teams, this title wasn't as prominent during the 50s and 60s as it would become in the 1970s and 80s. The Southern Junior Heavyweight title would be renamed the Southern Heavyweight title in the summer of 1974. Major attractions such as Danny Hodge, Pat O'Connor, Eddie Graham, Buddy Fuller, Gene Kiniski, Haystack Calhoun, Johnny Valentine, Harley Race, and even Dory Funk Jr. also worked shows for Gulas during the decade. Gulas even used boxing legend Joe Louis on cards as a special referee in various cities. Late in the 1960s, Gulas used Dr. Sam Shepard on cards teamed with longtime Gulas regular George Strickland. Shepard had been imprisoned after a murder trial heavily covered by the media. Errors were discovered in Shepard's first murder trial, so a retrial was ordered. In the second trial, Shepard was acquitted and released. The events of his life influenced a TV show, The Fugitive, and later a movie of the same name. Notable among those who made great impacts on the business later on who worked for Gulas in the 1960s include a man known in the territory as Ron Carson. Early in his career, the man left Texas and came to Tennessee to work for Nick Gulas. Not long after his arrival, he teamed with Tennessee native Don Carson as Don's brother, and his team won the world tag title. In reality, Ron Carson was future international superstar Dick Murdock. Murdock was the son of wrestler Frankie Murdock, famous in the Amarillo, Texas territory. Sam Bass also debuted in the 1960s. Initially, he didn't make much of a splash for Gulas, appearing mainly as an undercard performer. He would, though, become a major star for Gulas in the 1970s as the manager of the team of Jim White and Jerry Lawler. Also appearing for Gulas were the True Life brother team of Ron and Don Wright, natives of Kingsport, Tennessee. Low-Key Don and Motormouth Ron riled fans like few teams could. Ron, who often referred to himself as the #1 hillbilly, had a run on the eastern half of the territory in 1969 that even featured him receiving a shot at the NWA World Champion Dory Funk Jr. in Chattanooga when he and Don were billed as Ron and Don Hayes. Ron's ability to incite the fans during interviews was matched only by his ability to do the same through illegal tactics in the ring. Although the Wrights and fellow East Tennessee wrestling legend Whitey Caldwell mostly appeared in the Knoxville territory, Gulas would use them from time to time for several years, mainly on the eastern end of the territory.